Okay, welcome everybody, and thank you for joining this session 4. It's my pleasure to introduce you to our speaker, Philipp Baske, who's joining us today as the CEO of NanoTemper Technologies. Like many of us, Philipp started his career by studying physics, and during his PhD in biophysics, he started working on a method to measure the interaction between biomolecules. Together with his colleague Stefan Dur, he saw the potential of this for applying this for biomedical research. So they decided to fund the company NanoTemper together. Since its foundation in 2008, the company has grown to over 200 employees and has won several innovation prizes. I'm looking forward to hearing about how to fund and scale a biotech company. So let's join Philipp on an odyssey into a future where every disease becomes treatable.
So you read Odyssey here. I think every one of you knows Odyssey from school or from science fiction. So who knows Odyssey? What an Odyssey is? Okay, this makes it easier for me. So the Odyssey, it's about Odysseus. So Odysseus wanted to travel home, and he wanted to travel home because he had a very beautiful wife. But he had a problem. He pissed off some gods. So he wants to travel home, but the god says, no, we don't allow you to go home. So they put a lot of hurdles in front of him. I think you know them, if you have listened to it at school. And the problem was, it was really tough hurdles. It took years. And all his friends, all his companions told him, you won't make it. It's impossible. But Odysseus had been different. He had a belief. He had a purpose. And his belief was, I will succeed. So if you do an Odyssey, it's about the goal. You need a purpose. So it's not about if you travel by bike or car or ship or a big plane. It's about your goal, your purpose. If you have a purpose, a real purpose which resonates with you, this will allow you to overcome all these hurdles. So I will talk about purpose. So it's my purpose, it's a purpose of NanoTemper, and maybe it's also your purpose. So here you see a young woman. So a beautiful young woman. So she looks out of the window and she doesn't look happy. So this woman has cancer, a very severe form of cancer. And she knows she will have a long and tough odyssey in front of her. Cancer is really tough. And I think every one of you knows someone who has cancer. So if you have this diagnosis, cancer, it's really tough. When I look at this woman, so I want to help her. And I think you also want to help her. And this is my purpose. And this is the purpose of NanoTemper. We want to help her. We want to help this woman to fight cancer, to win against cancer. So 18 million. So 80 million is it's a huge number. 80 million is huge. And we have 18 million new cancer cases every year. So 18 million, this is more than the population of the Netherlands. 18 million new cancer cases every year. And all of them are afraid. All of them know they have a long odyssey in front of them. No one knows if he or she will survive. And this is our call for duty, to help them. We will not leave them alone. So, what is the problem? The problem is we have drugs in the moment, But the drugs we have in the moment, they do not work. So you can call them old drugs. They are derived and produced in a chemical way, and these drugs don't work. We need new drugs. So I think every one of you know aspirin. Maybe after the summer event tomorrow, you will need it the next day. I've been told TNT does really great parties. If you don't know aspirin yet, you would latest know it on Sunday. So aspirin is a so-called small molecule. It's a small drug. It's produced in a chemical way. So if you look at aspirin, it has a complexity of a bike. And these old chemical drugs don't work. They are not enough to fight cancer. So we need new drugs. And this is where biotech comes into play. So there are new biotech drugs. This is a typical drug developed by biotech. It's a monoclonal antibody. And compared with aspirin, it's huge. So this old aspirin has a complexity of a bike. This new biotech drug, this antibody, who will help against cancer, it will have the complexity of an airplane. So it's much more complex. It helps, but complexity is much higher. And we have to handle this complexity. We have to be able to analyze these molecules. And how can we analyze them? So this is what NanoTemper does. This is my daily business. How can we analyze them? So the problem is we are not allowed to touch them. If you touch these drugs, you will kill them. They are very fragile. So you are not allowed to touch them. We only allowed to watch them. But there's another problem. I told you they are huge, they have high complexity, but still they are invisible. You can't see them. You even can't see them with a microscope. It's below the diffraction limit. You can't see them. So our task is to make the invisible visible. So what you see here is a laser in a sample container where this biotech drugs, this antibody is inside this container, and we analyze it with laser light, with UV laser light. And what you see here is impossible. When we started this, everyone told us it is not possible to analyze them in these containers. This was our start, the start of our odyssey. So I studied physics, if you have been told by the intro. So I do science, I believe in science, but all the experts told me, told us, told everyone at NanoTemper, you will fail, this is impossible. You won't make it. So what we do now, as it is impossible, is not science, it's science fiction. So the good thing is I'm a science fiction fan. So what we do at NanoTemper, our daily business, my daily business is science fiction because we do the impossible. Interesting is, they think it's impossible. No one has proven that it's impossible. It was just an assumption. They assumed that it is impossible, but there was no proof. And there's where science fiction helps. It helps you to get this belief that you can do it. Do you understand this line? Do you understand what it means? If you understand it, so it's a very strange line. It's a laser signal, there are fluctuations, and I don't understand it. By looking at it, I don't understand it. So no one understands it by just looking at it. what you need is data science. You need algorithms, you need software. So it's about data science, and this is where the magic happens. So what you see here, it's not the Mount Everest. It's also not one of the towers of the Frauenkirche. What you see here is the invisible. Thanks to the data science, you see the drugs. And this is the size of a drug. So with data science, with a strong belief, you can make the invisible visible. And this is how the reality looks like. So this is how it looks like in our laser labs when the laser safety officer is on vacation. It's UV light, UV lasers, we shine them on those samples, and it's a lot of fun working with light. It's like disco. It's a dark room, like in a club. Sometimes the guys also play techno, and they look at the setups. So when you work at NanoTemper, when you do this drug discovery, you will get blinded by the light. I hope this is not recorded. So what you see here is code. It's a sequence, it's a messenger RNA. And this messenger is coding. So this one is coding for a protein which will then kill a cancer cell. So it's code, and it tells the cell how to build a protein. And in this special case, it's a protein which will kill the cancer cell. So you might say it's technology. I say it's not only technology, it's life. We are close to be able to code life. We understand the code of life, and we start to code life. So we are at a tipping point in biotech. And this is what NanoTemper does. So we measure how the code of life is delivered. There's an mRNA embedded in a container. And we measure if this thing is okay and how it gets delivered. So we are a company acting very close to this tipping point in biotech, to this code of life. And it has been tough, it has been an odyssey. It took us a really long time to achieve this simple thing you see here. It took us a very long time. So on the right side, you see a cancer cell. You want to destroy this cancer cell, and only the cancer cell. You don't want to destroy healthy cells, you want to destroy the cancer cell. And here you see the container with the code of life with the mRNA. So the mRNA is the explosive, it's a payload. And your container is your cruise missile. And your task is to find the cancer cell and to kill it. So it's about seek and destroy the cancer. Why seek and destroy? Because I'm a Metallica fan. And I very much love their song Seek and Destroy, and this is why I used it for this. As it is, we seek the cancer cell and destroy it. And with Metallica, it's even more fun. This is what we do at NanoTemper. We build beautiful devices which measure the code of life, which measure how your mRNA, your proteins kill the cancer cells. So, do you want one? If you want one, it's not so big. It's like a cradle of beer. So I think even in Munich, you have enough space for it. And price start at 150,000 euros. So please tell me if you want one. It's really fun working with them. You won't get blinded by the lights, the lasers are covered. So this is what we sell at NanoTemper. We sell beautiful devices which allow you to measure how the code of life is delivered. So what we do at NanoTemper, it's about science. Sometimes it's also about science fiction. It is about devices, it's about hardware. But at the end, it is about this. So it is about software, and it is about data and IT. So it is about what you do. What a lot of you do at TNG. This is exactly what all we do is about. Data, knowledge. Knowledge how to kill cancer, how to find the new drugs. So when I see this, I'm afraid. It's too much data for me. So many information, I can't understand it anymore. So how about you? With the last slides, I saw some nodding faces. I think you are the experts. You can understand it. You know how to handle big amounts of data. So this is also one of the reasons why I'm here. We need your help. We need your input to be able to understand what's behind this data and to deliver better analysis to our customers so that they can fight cancer. Against a cancer cell, our container with the explosive with the code of life has come closer. And you see there are keys at this container. And I've told you we have to find the right cancer cells. Only the cancer cells, not the healthy cells. So this was a problem with the old drugs, with these chemicals, with this chemotherapy. They also attack the healthy cells, and then you lose your hairs and all the things you know. This we want to avoid. We only want to attack the cancer cells. So we have to seek them, we have to find them, then we have to open them, and then we have to kill them. And for this we need the key, the right key to enter and destroy them. And this is what we measure at NanoTemper. We find the right key to kill the cancer cells. Again, a fancy plot. So we have 3 problems at NanoTemper. 3 problems in biotech. The first problem is data. The second problem is data. And the third problem is data. So you know what I mean? We need your help. We need data science and IT and software to deal with it. At the end, we need you. This is what we need. We need a strong connection between biotech, software, data science, AI, IT. We really need you to move forward in biotech. So I've told about the impossible. So this laser, shining light, this fancy light on the samples. And from this light, we get a lot of data. So this impossible thing, this science fiction, delivers you with 24-bit a sampling rate of 40 megahertz and 4 channels at once, delivers you the impossible data to see the invisible. So I told you about science fiction. So we had this strong belief that we will make this odyssey, that we will achieve our goal. And it took us more than 4 years, and often 38 people had worked on it. But then we made it happen. So we really survived this odyssey and got a great device out of it. A device which then also was used in the pandemic. So if you look at some press releases from biotech and the like, you will see our devices in the background. So this big achievement also helped in the pandemic. So science fiction can help. Belief is really strong. And you might ask yourself why I'm standing here, why I'm talking to you about science fiction, Metallica, and the like. And the thing is, because I founded NanoTemper together with Stefan, and I will tell you also some stories, some waypoints from my personal odyssey I had founding NanoTemper. We had a very good beginning. It was very promising. So we were two young guys, younger than 30, with the idea to found a biotech company. So we looked for advice. So we approached a famous German biotech entrepreneur, really famous. You can call him maybe the Elon Musk of German biotech, really a go-to guy. So we approached him, and this guy was willing to talk with us. So very promising. So we had a meeting with him. So this guy has been already very famous. And we've met in the Hotel 4 Jahreszeiten at the Maximilianstraße in Munich. So 5 stars, very expensive, very fancy. Two young people, PhD students from a dark lab going to the Hotel 4 Jahreszeiten. And there was this guy sitting in a special room, a lot of wood, a fireplace in his background, and he was sitting on a chair, literally a little bit elevated relative to us. And then we told him our story, our idea about the technology, what we want to do. And then he told us, you will fail. Wow, Elon Musk tells you you will fail. Good if you're not working at Twitter, but it was really tough for us. We had this good idea we thought, and this famous guy was telling us, you will fail. And he told us, what you guys are trying, I have already tried. And it didn't work in my case. Because it didn't work in my own case, it cannot work at all. So you two guys will fail. However, as we believe in science fiction, and maybe especially in my case, a little bit ignorant and not always listening to good advices, we moved on. So we got the next opportunity to talk to a famous guy, so to a big professor, also famous professor. As it is recorded, I will not tell his name. He worked at the Max Planck Institute in Göttingen. So a big professor, really big shot, at the Max Planck Institute in Göttingen. And this Max Planck Institute is on a hill. The address is Am Fassberg. So remember, big professor, top of a hill. So we had a demonstrator, so it was a black box, around 20 kilograms. And we had to travel from Munich to Göttingen, to the top of the hill. So we took the Deutsche Bahn, the train, from Munich to Göttingen. We know the Deutsche Bahn very well, so it was obvious that we have to take one train earlier. So this worked well. So we carried our prototype together into the train, arrived well in Göttingen, only half an hour late. Perfect. And then we took the bus to the Max Planck Institute, top of the hill. Bus was driving, and then the bus stopped. And there was this message, we have a problem, the bus has to stop, please leave the bus. And we had this great opportunity to demonstrate our technology to this big professor, top of the hill. So we thought, Jesus, what can go wrong? But we had this strong belief, we know it's an odyssey. So together we carried this 20 kilogram prototype, the last kilometer, top of the hill. We demonstrated to the professor, and we failed. Didn't work. So things like this happened around 30 times. So it has been tough 2 years after founding the company, but we had this strong belief, like Odysseus, we had this strong belief that we will succeed. So we moved on. And since there was this thing, I can very much remember it. It has been the 23rd December of 2009. So 23rd December, the day before Christmas. And we had samples from a biotech company in Munich from Grelux. And they've told us, if you can show or prove your technology on our samples, on our drug candidates, we will buy your device. So on this 23rd December, I worked really hard for 2 reasons. I wanted to prove that we can do it with our technology, so we can find new drugs, new biotech drugs. And the second reason was I wanted to travel home at Christmas to my parents. So I worked hard on this day, and in the night, maybe around 10 p.m., I was able to send a report to this biotech company in Munich, to Grelux, and then I traveled home to my parents in the northern part of Bavaria. And then 1 week later, there was this message from Grelux: we are convinced your technology works, we will buy a device. And this was my belated Christmas present. So at the end, because of our strong belief in science fiction, while hearing Metallica in the labs, not getting blinded by the laser light, we could succeed. So where are we now? So we founded the company in 2008. Now we have more than 200 employees. So from a lot of different nations, a lot of different disciplines, and we are highly profitable. So in our industry, for the German Mittelstand, for German SMEs, we have a really high profitability. And why do we have this high profitability? Because we are very innovative. We take risks, we aim to fly high, and this allows us to be innovative. And innovation allows you to be profitable. And when you have this high profitability, it allows you also to take risks, because some things can go wrong and it will not kill you. So we are often, we have won the German Founders Award, the German Innovation Award. Also nearly every year we get this Top 100 Innovator of the Year award. Also some magazines like Capital elect us for being very innovative. And why is this? Because we're also a top employer. So innovation is about people. It's about you. And this is why we put our people in the center and let them do their job. They can take risks, they can learn, and they can do science fiction with fancy lasers. So remember, we are very successful. So what is special about NanoTemper is there are a lot of, let's say, successful companies in the world. So in the beginning, we funded the company by winning awards. So we joined business plan competitions and other things, and with the money we got there, winning the competitions, we bought the materials to build our prototypes. So we are now 14 years old. Since 13 years, we are profitable. We have no debt, and we have no venture capital. So in our size, if you look globally, in our size, we are the only company in the world not funded by venture capital. All our competitors are funded by venture capital. But we are different. So Stefan and me, we fully own the company. We own 100% of the company. So we can follow our purpose. If you're a venture capital funded company, you have to grow for growth's sake, because they want to make money. This is why they invest in you. When we grow, if we grow, we do it to fight cancer or other diseases. We do it to fight more, to achieve more, to follow our purpose, and because it's also a lot of fun. So it's a lot of fun if you're independent. We are independent. There's no venture capital company who can tell us what to do. We can follow our dream. We can do science fiction. So imagine telling a guy from an investment bank you want to do science fiction. What will he tell you? We can do science fiction. We can rise the impossible. There's also a funny story. So this is a picture I took last year in Boston. So in Boston, I walked through a park. In the night there has been a conference, a biotech conference in Boston. And after the conference, I just walked through a park at the riverside. And then I heard some music playing, techno. So I'm also a techno fan. I've been at the Love Parade several times. So I followed the music and took this picture. Then I was standing there listening to the music, and I was a little bit dancing, let's say for 20 minutes or so. And then there's been two DJs. One of the DJs approached me. There were not so many people, so they somehow realized me. He approached me and asked me where I'm from. I told him from Munich, Germany. Then we had some small talks, and he asked, okay, what are you doing? So I'm doing biotech. And then he asked, for what company? I thought, okay, NanoTemper, Munich, this is Boston, USA, 200 people. Why is he asking? It will bring him nothing, he will not know us. And I told him, we are NanoTemper. And he told me, cool, I know NanoTemper. And it turned out that he was a lab manager of a life science incubator in Boston, Cambridge. And just imagine, you go in Boston, you walk through a park, you stop randomly at a DJ playing, and the DJ knows you. And this tells me we are quite famous now, at least in biotech, that people know us and they like our story. And this was very cheering for me. It was just, how high are the odds that you walk through Boston from a 200 people company in Munich, and a DJ playing music in a park knows you. This also tells you something about the importance of biotech in Boston. It's really a biotech hotspot. But this really cheered me up, a cool techno DJ knowing me. This was fun. Never happened when I've been young. They didn't know me. Now they know me. And they are still much older than me, so I'm a really old guy. So I told you that we need data science, that we need people like you, and what is your impact? So I wrote here 1 million hours. So 1 million hours is a really huge number, a huge amount of time. So this is the impact you can have in software development at NanoTemper with 1 month of your work. So you develop software, and you develop software in a way that the scientists can use it. So, for example, you improve the usability, or you improve the output of the data, of the plots. And the scientists, they look for new drugs against cancer. So imagine, for every scientist, you save, with your work, you save 1 hour per week. So you work for 1 month improving the UI, and one scientist saves 1 hour per week with your work. So we have 20,000 scientists using our devices, and they work 50 weeks per year. So this is 1 million hours. So you invest 1 month of work and you save 1 million hours for the scientists. So 1 million hours more they can spend to find a drug against cancer. So imagine when you tell your kids, your parents, your grandparents, your friends, what you do at work. You say, you save scientists developing new drugs against cancer 1 million hours. This is huge. We have to think about this in our daily business. We have a huge impact. In biotech, you can really have a huge impact and make a difference. So I hope I can motivate you to go for science fiction, to aim high, to dream, and to fly with us in the new century, the new golden age of biotech. So I hope you can still remember this woman from the beginning, this woman who had a diagnosis of cancer and she was very unhappy. So this is Emily. So she got a diagnosis with a cancer which is not treatable. It was a very severe, deadly form of cancer. And with the old drugs, there was absolutely no hope for Emily. They told her she will die. But then she had the opportunity to be the first patient to test a new therapy developed by biotech. It's called CAR-T therapy. And now look at her, 10 years later, she survived. She survived the odyssey because the things we do, the things the scientists do with our tools, they develop these new drugs against cancer and help to make these untreatable diseases treatable. So keep in mind, we can really win against cancer. There is hope. We will win against cancer. So I have a very strong belief. We at NanoTemper have a very strong belief, like NanoTemper and like Odysseus has a strong belief. We think that every disease is treatable. So how about you? Can you think like Odysseus? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Philip, for this nice talk. We have time for questions, either from the audience, just raise your hand, or from Slack, we also have some. So maybe we start with a Slack question while you think of another one.
Yes. So first of all, thanks for the very interesting talk. So we have a question from Benedict Best. His question is, I see several tools for protein characterization on your website. Which of those technologies was the award winner that funded you?
It's a monolith. It's a monolith device. And in my talk, the device I've showed you is a new version of the monolith. And there's a story behind this. As I'm a science fiction fan and a fan of Greek history, this monolith means, you know it from Odyssey 2001 in space. There is this monolith bringing intelligence to mankind in the science fiction movie. In our first prototype, this black box looked like the monolith. So we called it monolith. And the other thing is I'm a physicist and I like Einstein. And the Greek name of Einstein is monolith. So we have always funny stories around our products, which tell you a lot about our personality.
Okay, any questions here from within the room?
Who wants to buy a device?
Gibt's noch mehr Fragen auf Slack?
I think you have one, or? The question is what exactly we measure. The one thing is we measure the container containing the mRNA, if it contains the mRNA. So the payload has to be inside, not outside, to be able to deliver it. And then we also measure if it targets the right cells. if it only targets specific cancer cells. And this gives you a picture how this thing works. Sorry, didn't understand you.
How did you develop a prototype before you won the award? So how did you develop the prototype that actually won the award at the end?
So we were in a young group below. There was a chair of Professor Gaub. And before we had money, we had some grants from the government. And we more or less used what they didn't know. Well, what they didn't know or didn't use anymore, also their waste. So it just was left over.
Hello, also thank you from my side for the talk. It was very interesting. You said that in the beginning of your odyssey, even experts told you it wouldn't be possible what you tried to achieve, and that they didn't prove before that it wouldn't be possible. But I guess as they are experts, they had probably some reasons to say that. Could you elaborate a bit on the difficulties they have seen and that you had to overcome from the technical side?
Sometimes, so it's a very good question. So you live their experience, often they are very experienced guys, which means they are older. And they have a personal experience which stems from an, let's say, outdated time. In our case, a lot of things were possible because there has been diode lasers or LEDs. So just because the technology evolved and data science was there, much more soft computing power, and also optical system for telecommunication, these technological developments allowed us to do the things which were considered impossible 30 years ago. So you always have to adapt old assumptions to the new reality. You always have to think them through, like in history, what was the context when they made this assumption? Is this context still valid for our time or for the future? And I think that's the trick, extrapolate into the future.
You just do research compared to cancer or also some other illnesses like autoimmune or something like that?
Yeah, we also do like Alzheimer and other, let's say, like Parkinson also. I've chosen the cancer example because everyone has a connection to cancer. It's still the biggest market in the moment in biotech, but we do a lot of different things. Let's say our customers. With our technology, we enable them to do the things. So they use the tools. They also know what to attack and how, and we are the enabler with our tools. So the heroes are the scientists doing this drug discovery. We just enable them. But doing so, we have a big leverage, because there's one scientist with a cool goal, but we are enabling 20,000 of them to do it. But they are the experts, they are the heroes. And what really cheers me up is when I go to a lab and there is a guy, he tried hard for 3 years, didn't work, and with our device it works in 1 week. And then you really see it in the face of this person, and this is really what drives me, to see this happiness at the scientists' faces. Yeah. Sorry, don't. I've been too often at the Love Parade, so and maybe also at Metallic, I don't hear so good anymore.
Sorry. Yeah, so I repeat the question. Do you know whether the companies that use your device already found some medicines that already tested it for cancer?
They keep it confidential, and I'm also not allowed
Okay.
to talk about it, but I'm sure. It's also... It's also that it's not only that we allow them to find new drugs, we also allow them to find drugs they would have found anyway quicker. So it's also if you enable them to bring a drug 3 months earlier to the market, you can save a lot of lives. So if you have 18 million cancer cases a year and you have a drug 3 months earlier, you can save a lot of lives. And this has happened for sure. Typical development time for a drug is 10 years, and we are now at the market for more than 10 years. So we are in close contact with companies, with pharma companies, and as soon as they stop talking with us about the data, we know there's something cool happening. But it's confidentiality is very high.
I have a technical question. What do you measure? Like, is it excited states of the molecules, or what is happening there?
At the end, we measure how light is modulated. So differences in intensity, differences in wavelength, so wavelength shifts, and also interferences, fluctuation, there's the autocorrelation, it's dynamic light scattering. So we more or less measure modulations of light done by the biomolecules. In an optical way, we always do it in an optical way. It's always photons.
And you measure that over time and analyze that?
It's mostly over time, over temperature, over typical parameters which are determined by, let's say, the assay. In biotech, they call it assay. So the trick is to understand what the biotech people need. Often it's a very simple solution, but you really have to understand what they need as an outcome and translate this into a property, a physical property you can measure. And then you have this huge amount of data, and we have no black box, so we collect the photons, we have analog detectors, we digitize it, and we have FPGAs, microcontrollers, desktop PC, cloud to handle the data. So we have no black box and really understand what is happening with the data we derive from the photons. But the trick is really to understand the biochemistry, the biotech, to ask the right questions and to provide the data, because you have always too much data. It's really to focus on the important points in the data space.
Hi, thanks for the nice talk.
Hey.
So from my experience in the lab, I would have loved to use an amazing device like your NanoTemper products. I was wondering, in biotech, the situation for devices to me seemed to usually be that either the device is really niche, so you're not going to find anyone who's willing to spend the money to buy it, or it's a product that a lot of labs would be able to apply. But in that case, you probably have a lot of competition with other companies that make basically more or less the same machine. So I was wondering, what was it about yours that allowed it to do so well?
First of all, we ignored that there is competition and just tried it. And one important point is it's a usability. So there was a scientist at Genentech in the Bay Area. He called us the Apple of biotech because of the usability. So our idea is that it makes no sense that a biochemist, a drug scientist, spends a lot of time to learn how to use your device. This is a waste of time. You should focus on the drug development. And so what we do, our devices are plug and play. So you don't need service for it. You can just focus on your measurement. And this makes us different. Also because the people understand that we don't want to squeeze the last cent out of them. As a competition, they are venture capitalists, they have to go for the money. For us, we think on the long run. We don't want to sell the company in 5 years like venture capital does, and they have to have this hockey stick like growth. We think on the long run. We want that the customers see that we can really make a difference for them. And this pays off on the long run. So PhD students who have used our device now use it also when they are PIs in these companies, because they trust us. And you have to make the invisible visible. So it's tough to prove this. So it's about believing and trust. They really trust us, and this is why they buy. I think that's it. They trust us.
So there's another question from Slack, from David Banochi. I hope I didn't butcher your last name. So what is your next odyssey? Do you keep iterating on your current products, or do you have different product lines in the works?
We do iteration, we do this kind of continuous improvement, continuous innovation on the existing product lines, but we also look into these new markets like Alzheimer's disease or heart disease, where you have to measure different physical properties and take some high risk. So we try now to somehow predict the future in the science fiction mode and to really think a step ahead. So one thing is now, you've seen a lot of analog data. What we do now is we go for imaging. So much more data. So this is one step. And this is a close contact. We always have to match the speed of the biotech developments. As soon as there is a certain need for measurement technology, we have to have some kind of technology in our pockets which allows us to develop a product fast enough for them to use it. It's a little bit tricky. The most thing is about understanding what the market and the customer needs. Which part of the data they needed and how, and then the technology follows. But we recently had a breakthrough. So one idea is, I told about this continuous innovation. You can manage this innovation with customer feedback, but no customer can give you feedback to something which is not existing. If you start from scratch, a really disruptive thing, you won't get feedback, so you can't use this continuous improvement with the customer. And for this, it's often also, it's not anymore teamwork. They are special inventors, because the ideas they have are so new that other people don't understand it. And if you show your idea to a German engineer and he thinks the idea is impossible, he will tell you it's impossible. And then you're alone, you have 10 people, clever people telling you it's impossible. But if you stick to your idea and work for yourself and you have a demonstrator and you show that it's working, then people believe in you. And this is so, and one thing is to put the right person who has this inventive mind in an environment where this person gets a lot of different inputs and tough questions, impossible things. And then this disruptive innovation happens. And there was this question for this monolith, what have been our first device, the monolith. And we tried 10 years to find a new or better measurement technology for it, but failed. And then in 2020, a scientist in the lab, one of these inventors, he just found an artifact and then had a closer look. And now we released the monolith with a new technology, which is much, much better. And this was an innovation which was not planned in this innovation management-like manner. So it's really interesting. So this management is, but you have to trust the people. And this is, with innovation management, is about controlling. And say you put a person or 3 persons in a setting where something can happen and you let them work. In 10 years there will happen nothing. It's only working if you trust them and you have the patience. So to be really innovative and to move fast forward, you have to be patient. Because innovation, disruptive innovation, takes time. And we have to be patient to make it happen. Does this answer the question a little bit?
Okay, so we have another, sorry.
Maybe we have time for one last question, if it's a quick one. Do you have one? Or?
So from Benjamin Kraus, after all these easy questions, here comes a tough one. What is better, solid rock music like Metallica or techno? And how to prove it?
Both are very nice. I like to switch between them. Depending on my mood, I listen to Metallica, or when I go for a run, it's more techno. So I like both very much. I like the changes between them. It's some kind of inspiration, like putting you into different environments to get inspiration. This is also what I do with music. I love music, and I love both. So both are very nice.
Yeah, so on this personal note, I think we have to come to an end because the next session is coming up. Thank you for joining, and especially thank you for Philip for this nice discussion and the wonderful talk, and have fun in the rest of the Tech Day.
Thank you. Thank you.